Aging is inevitable, part of life. However, there are ways to age gracefully. Our expert is here to tell us what 3 things we can do right now to improve our physical and mental well-being. And you may have heard about them, blue zones. People in different parts of the world living healthier lives well into their 90s and 100s. What's their secret? And what are U.S. cities doing to replicate that success? Plus, a non-surgical procedure using radio frequency to tighten and smooth the skin.
Time keeps marching on. Unfortunately, it marches right across my face and a couple of areas on my body we won't discuss.
Also, why kids may be the key to living longer. It's all straight ahead on Prescription for Life. Thanks for joining us. I'm Monica Robbins. This is a topic that never gets old: how to age well and stay young. A recent report by the Centers for Disease Control shows an increase in life expectancy up to 77.5 from 76.4 years, thanks mainly to fewer COVID deaths. The key to living longer may be in what you do on a consistent basis. Speaker and best-selling author Dan Buettner spent years exploring longevity around the world. He explains the world's healthiest destinations called blue zones.
They're places where either people reach age 100 at the highest rates or they have the lowest rate of middle-age mortality. In other words, they have the best chance of reaching a healthy age of 95. And the project, National Geographic project, originally set out to, in a sense, reverse engineer longevity. Instead of looking for secrets in test tubes or petri dishes, we found real populations, real people who are making it to their 90s, 100s without chronic disease, and then we learned their common denominators, the lessons they have for the rest of us.
Improving life expectancy is the goal of several communities here in the U.S., and some are pushing to become blue zones themselves. One of them is a program launched this summer in Jacksonville, Florida. It all stems from living a healthier, happier life, beginning with people, places, and policies. Take a look at this story from WTLV.
How do you improve the health of an entire community? Nicole Ham, executive director of the Blue Zones Project Jacksonville, says one way you may notice will be access to healthier food.
It may not be the bright, shiny grocery store at the end of the 5 years, but it could be that there are 3 really strong convenience stores where people can get their WIC accepted and their SNAP accepted.
Blue Zones is working with Deb's Store on the east side and White Harvest Farms on the north side. Both areas are low income and people have less access to healthy food. Ham says Blue Zones is data-based and will be tracking the following:
decreasing childhood obesity, decreasing hypertension hospitalizations, increasing walkability.
We're at the newly renovated Flossie Brunson Park playground on the east side, and this is a great example of the kind of thing Blue Zones wants to see more of. It creates access to healthy outdoor activities, especially for kids. In a California beach town, Blue Zone states they helped lower the obesity rate by 25%. So what's the secret to a longer, healthier life? For Blue Zones, the answer will take a lot of data as they focus on people, places, and policy.
We'll look at the numbers and really be able to say that our well-being index has increased greatly over the last 5 years.
Now to our expert on what we can do right now to age gracefully. Joining me now is Dr. Ardashir Hashmi, who's the Enterprise Director of the Center for Geriatric Medicine at Cleveland Clinic. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
We all want to live longer, but we want to live longer with all of our faculties and our abilities. Is it possible?
It is. It's very much in our locus of control, and it is not something which is beyond our reach or something that we have to financially invest in. It is actually in our day-to-day living, we can actually map out habits that can help us do that.
So what are most of us doing wrong?
Oh, there's a lot that we are unknowingly doing wrong, and then there's also a lot of pressures that are being put on us in the world that we live in that are making it very difficult for us to do the right thing. So sleep, I think, is a big, big one. Rest is important for both cognition and physical health. And how many of us sort of scrimp on that, right? Or don't get to the deepest level of quality of sleep. So I think I'd probably start with that. And then we all talk about exercise and nutrition, but even within that, our choice of realistically fitting that into our daily routine, that is so important. Because, you know, it's close to the new year, right? And we all make New Year's resolutions. And the reason many of them get broken is we don't have a strategy to sort of feasibly do that. We'll make a grand plan, and we won't know, out of 10 things that I could be doing, what are the specific physical activities? How do I integrate this into my diet, into my daily routine? And then the same thing for diet.
So what I'm hearing then is you're talking about, let's make a map. Let's sit down before you make your New Year's resolutions, or even if you've already failed your New Year's resolutions. How do you set that up? And is it just like we always hear, just add one thing a week, or, you know, try to do one thing a day, maybe?
Absolutely, it's that. It's also, you know, it's not the intensity, it's not the amount. So I'll give you an example of exercise. So previously, even through our national societies, American College of Cardiology, it was always, you know, you have to have 120 minutes of exercise every week. And so while that's a very noble and lofty goal, people would try to strive for that, and they would sustain it for some time, and then they would just drop off. The new research is taking into account how we sort of keep daily habits. And so 10 minutes of exercise every day, literally 10 minutes. And my patients all sort of say, like, how could that be? And I say, look, think about it. 10 minutes, it's a long time. Think about 10 minutes of just doing that aerobic exercise, whatever it is. And add that up over time. You can fit those 10 minutes into any part of your day, doesn't matter where it is, but the consistency of it is what the body likes. And as you sort of continue doing that 10 minutes every single day, it then becomes a habit, and you can sustain it long term. The other side of this coin is, has to be something that you enjoy doing, right? So if I sort of say, like, oh, theoretically this could work, and that is not something that makes you happy and you don't find joy in it, it's not going to happen. But if it is something that makes you happy and you find joy in it, chances are you'll do some of it. You may not even get to the 10 minutes, and I could care less about that, but I do care about you doing it every day.
And I think too, when you're referring to exercise, you're referring to get that heart rate up.
So again, things are dynamic, they're changing, right? Previously we used to say that, and our patients would come in very frustrated, like, I can't get it. And that's ignoring physiology as the years go by, right? Our heart automatically slows down, and for good reason. Interesting parallel to athletes. Their heart rate is like very low, actually, you know, and that's a reflection of their good health. So there's nothing wrong with it. It's actually, and people get very concerned about this, it's very normal. So then the heart rate goal becomes a little bit irrelevant, right? So it's more, we have this saying in geriatrics, first do no harm. It's a Latin saying, primum non nocere. And so people say, well, to your point, what am I doing wrong right now? And I said, well, look, one thing that's going to be our friend no matter what for all of us, if we're active in our lives, is arthritis. And you want to make sure that you are not taxing your joints or muscles in any way, especially your knees. A lot of this treadmill culture is completely, you know, ruining the health of our knees, for example. And so things that don't do that, the best, I think, thing, which is hard to find, but really has survived traditions, is Tai Chi. Balance, cognition, all sorts of benefits. If you find it and you find a good Tai Chi group, that's the best sort of thing. But if you don't
find it on YouTube, though, right?
Yes, in the world that we live in, you can. And it's not something that, so I'll give you the example of China, right? Super aging populations in the Asia Pacific region. So at every street corner when we visited, there are groups of people, neighborhood activity, people doing Tai Chi. And they had these sort of boomboxes. They used to do it to music, very soft, you know, soothing, traditional Chinese sort of music. And I'm like, oh, this must be a health outreach effort. They've just been doing it. They do it. The community has come up with that. Because they used to do it in their homes. They've been doing it since childhood. And now they do it together. They're like, oh, we're all doing it in our homes. Let's bring in the social connectivity. So I would say sort of that's the other thing. The realistic thing is finding, if I told you 5 different good things to do, 5 daily habits, finding 5 different times in the day is really going to be close to impossible for a lot of us, myself included. But if I can integrate 2 or 3 good things within the same activity that's benefiting me in more than one way, wow, now I'm, multiplying that potential of that one activity that I'm doing. So Tai Chi is like that. Exercise bikes, doesn't put pressure on your knees. Water, anything in the water, walking in a pool of warm water. The therapy that is ongoing in terms of healing without you even knowing, it's amazing what it can do.
You mentioned social connectivity. We know that the U.S. Surgeon General came out saying loneliness is an epidemic.
Yeah.
How important is that? Because we're all so busy. I'm guilty of this. My friends will tell you sometimes I have to schedule them into my week or my month, and that's just ridiculous. But how important is social connectivity? And what happens, it's fine when you're working. I'm around people all the time, but there's going to come a day where I retire. Mm-hmm. Then what?
Absolutely. I think especially at retirement, rewiring, not retiring, right? Every one of us has a full life and career and connections through our work and professionally. And then when that is no longer there, not only do those connections go away, but our routine sort of goes away, right? We structure our lives around this and then our family. And so a lot of things are happening at that age, right? Your professional connections are going, but then family members moving away, kids going off to college. And in the world that we live in, people, sort of are in different states and even internationally. And so that all makes it very, very difficult. And we see a cliff. Post-retirement, I've seen this with patient after patient, when we don't plan what that's going to look like granular level, physically and mentally, we decline sharply. And we're like, why is this suddenly happening? I was like, fine. And this is the reason why, because we've lost those social connections. So I'll give you the example of the Japanese in the islands of Okinawa. When you turn 14, they assign six people, 6 acquaintances, friends. They should not be family members, they say, called them moai. And their job is to be your social support network from puberty all the way to the end of life, through happiness, so you can share that happiness, and also through grief. And we have, when I say external pressures, life has become so artificial that we are more linked, as you know, to our devices. And we think that that's giving our social connectivity, but it's really not. So the scheduling thing, you're right. It does seem ridiculous, but that is the world that we live in. And if we don't do it, it never gets done. And I'm, I'm as guilty of this as anything. And I've recently, actually, on a personal level, received a lot of feedback, and some events, in my own life where suddenly, and so the gist of it was, the people in your life that you're working so hard for, where's the time that you're spending with them? And it hurt, it stung, but it was so true. Because when I looked in the mirror, that is who I had become. And so part of that map, when you're planning retirement, make a plan to maybe volunteer or make a weekly connection with some old friends. That should be your priority. And making that plan together with others, because they will be your accountability partners, but they're your support network, right? So you're integrating that social connectivity and doing something with them that is in another domain, in the physical domain or the cognitive domain. The volunteering part, I will tell you. So when people in the areas of the world that have the longest living people, the blue zones, have done this, 150% improvement in memory and processing speed, 150%. And this is from an article in The Lancet, right? So, which came out now about 8 years ago. And yet how little we talk about that, how few people sort of know about this, even within the medical community. No medicine can do that. No medicine that we have right now can do that. They can all slow down the progression. And imagine with volunteering our time, with that social connectivity and these other, habits that I'm mentioning, sort of eating right and exercising and sleeping right. It's amazing. It's amazing.
So where are those blue zones?
So there are 5 different ones. So there's the Okinawa group of islands that I mentioned in Japan. There's Sardinia, so the Mediterranean. There's Greece. There's an Icaria Peninsula there. There's Costa Rica. And one closer to home is a group of 7-day Adventists in Loma Linda, California. And interestingly, again closer to home, one of our neighborhoods in Lakewood is actually applying to be a blue zone. So there are examples that have tried to emulate these zones.
So what do they all have in common, aside from the community involvement and the social connection?
So they have these habits integrated into the daily routine. So again, sort of returning to the Japanese, so they sit on the floor, traditionally. Somebody comes in, sort of a mark of respect, they stand up. So they're unwittingly doing squats all day. And they design their home so that the kitchen is the farthest away from the place where they eat, the living room or dining room. Eat in small plates, and the rule is traditionally that only 2/3 of that plate should be full. So when you're done, if you want seconds, you have to go to the kitchen where they store all the sort of food that's been prepped, and you're getting steps in. Plus, it's sort of acting as a disincentive to sort of, get that second helping. The Sardinians live in a rocky island. They have for centuries. And so they have cars, but the roads are so narrow that if I want to visit my friend, I either have to walk there or I have to get on my bicycle and I can bike there. And so these sort of natural things, right? And they don't even think about it. In fact, when we were first sort of on this expedition, it was actually a media sort of expedition, as you know, right, to find out where the blue zones are. They were looking for one place, and they found 5 that had very little in common. I mean, the Mediterranean folks had something in common. And then they had to really sort of think laterally and say, what is it that they have in common? And they had all these things in common.
So it is possible, is what you're saying. So if there are 3 things that people should do in this new year, what would you say start now?
Number 1, find your sense of purpose. The Japanese call it ikigai, sort of it's being socialized, popularized, but that sense of purpose, each one of us has a lot to give. We have a lifetime of experiences to share with folks. We should not wait to be asked, because we might not be asked. But if we put forward ourselves and our talents, here's what we can offer. You'll be reaching out and achieving that connectivity. You'll be helping other generations who don't have the experience that you have. And so the benefit for us is to be closer to our loved ones and sort of younger generations even. So that's number 1, I think, finding your sense of purpose and then really doing it, hardwiring into your daily routine. Second, I would say mobility is a penicillin against aging, or the route to successful aging. And again, it's not sort of moving extensively, it's the routine, the regularity of it, and finding one of these exercises. And the third thing that I think will also take a lot of deliberate effort is social connectivity, but I would sort of integrate it again with trying to learn something new. This could be learning a new language, reading about something that you have always wanted to learn about and have not. Trying to learn how to play a new musical instrument, or doing something that exercises the mind. The mind needs a lot of exercise. So Wordle, Scrabble, jigsaw puzzles, following a sort of game show that sort of forces us to think of answers. These sort of activities, you can do them alone. But if you can do them with a group of friends, you're achieving 2 things. Social connectivity will help those connections in the brain, but also the effort of trying something new. It's not about succeeding or mastery. In that effort, there is a lot of not only therapy, not only healing, but therapy in making us sharper, keeping us sharp, as we've always been.
Just don't use the television as your best friend.
Very passive, very passive. So these are all active sort of things, right? And yeah, and don't use the television.
Dr. Hashmi, fabulous insight. Thank you so much. I have to start making my list of things to do. But Tai Chi, never thought of it, but I need balance. So I think that's a good place to start.
Balance is great.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Stroll down any health and beauty aisle and you'll find tons of cleansers, serums, lotions, and masks, all promising the fountain of youth. Some are even considering surgery, but for those who are hesitating, there may be help in a method called Morpheus 8, a non-surgical procedure that uses your own body to help take age off your skin.
I'm 60. I'm fixing to be 61 in January. And I'm at that age where I'm contemplating, should I do a surgery, shouldn't I?
Aging gracefully is something we all hope to experience. In reality, ravages of time can sting, especially in a society celebrating youthful beauty. Cleveland businesswoman Jadon Sund knows this well.
Time keeps marching on. Unfortunately, it marches right across my face and a couple of areas on my body we won't discuss.
Rather than undergoing surgery, requiring weeks of downtime and a price tag north of $10,000, Jadon opted for a different kind of treatment at Dolce Organic Salon and Med Spa. It's called Morpheus 8.
What that does is it's gonna create more tightening and fat reduction when we use it.
Certified nurse practitioner Shanaz El-Jahari says the in-office procedure combines the benefits of microneedling with radio frequency to rejuvenate the skin. While injectables like Botox target fine lines and wrinkles, Morpheus 8 does too, but goes further. It stimulates the body's natural healing process, promoting collagen and elastin production to improve overall skin texture and firmness.
Acne scarring, textural issues, skin laxity, fine lines and wrinkles, pore reduction.
Not just for the face, Morpheus 8 can be done wherever there are small pockets of fat. It's approved for all skin types and skin tones, but not recommended for anyone pregnant, nursing, taking blood thinners, or with an autoimmune disease. Expect 1 to 3 treatments for a targeted area, performed 4 to 6 weeks apart.
My before and afters literally stunned me, and I got angry because nobody told me my neck looked that bad. And it did.
Jadon is getting ready to do her 3rd treatment. Pleased with the results, she says Morpheus 8 helps her feel like her best self instead of making her look like someone else.
It's not gonna make me look like I'm 20 years younger, but I don't care about that. I care about, let's take a little age off, look a little more rested without looking strange, and this works.
It's no surprise that for many, having kids makes them want to live longer and see all those milestones, from graduations to weddings to grandkids. And studies have shown that people who've had children do tend to live longer. But there's a catch. A study from the University of Michigan found that parenting can raise a person's life expectancy, but only if you stop at 2 kids. Studies seem to say that having just 2 kids strikes a good balance between social interaction as they age, plus it isn't too big of a financial burden. Now, of course, parents with more kids may also benefit from having extra caregivers later in life, not to mention keeping those social connections that are so important in keeping our brains active and healthy. That's all for this episode of Prescription for Life. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be right back here next week with another dose. I'm Monica Robbins, wishing you and yours good health.